Hello, everyone. Welcome to LLK number 68. I am Laura Nelkin. I am hopefully joined by my alter ego, Lola, and this is our monthly live from the studio. Sorry, it took us a minute or two to get going today. We're playing with the new camera lens and we were kind of having a debate about what lighting we liked best. And then I think we had a funny glitch for a second, but I'm here now. And it is lovely to see so many of you. I see that many of you are watching live, which I absolutely love. And I can see you chatting away in the chat. If you would love to introduce yourselves and say where you are watching from, that is always fun. What I'm going to tell you is as I record this live, as I am live with you, I do my best to not get too distracted by the comments, because those of you who are watching later, that can get a little discombobulating to read. I will have an eye on them just in case something is going wrong that I need to know about. Susie, my phenomenal moderator, is over there keeping an eye on things. Thank you so much, Susie. And towards the end of this live, I will ask if there's any questions. Then I'll kind of go over and be looking in the chat. So if you have a question for me, save it until the end. If somebody else knows the answer, they can jump in. One thing I will say is everything I talk about at the end of this live, I will give you links to below. I find if I give you those links early, you might get really distracted by something I tell you about and then leave and then stop watching the live, which is like not my goal very much at all. So welcome. I can see you all introducing yourselves. I love that some people introduced themselves earlier when they came in. I just came back from a phenomenal weekend with my buddy Patty Lyons at her retreat in Cooperstown, New York, which was an absolute blast. So I'm going to have some photos of that to share in a bit. I have a kind of recap of Knit for Food, since that was on April 5th, and we're not quite a month later. I can't believe it's been almost a month since Knit for Food. I'm going to be telling you about Lake Hug and the knit along that we're having that is just getting going, that I designed for the Affinity retreat, and it is available to all, which I absolutely love. And I'll also talk to you what else is on my needles and off my needles. With Lake Hug, I've got some really fun versions of other people's knits that they're working on to kind of tease you and inspire you with. And I've got a bit of a backstory for it. And then I will talk to you about like future travels, future teaching gigs. If you get excited by hearing about my teaching and want to join me at some point for a workshop, I would always love that. And then at the end of the live, I will share kind of what I'm listening, watching, reading, eating, etc. before we say goodbye. I am going to have a very fun giveaway at the end of this live. So if you watch till the end, you'll find out what the prompt is for the comments once the live is over. And I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be excited about that giveaway. It's a pretty special one. So without further ado, hello. The first thing that I want to tell you about, because I am so excited about it, is the Knit for Food knit-a-thon, which I know many of you who are watching participated in. The Knit for Food knit-a-thon was a 12-hour knitting marathon. Our 5th annual knit-a-thon was this year on April 5th, Saturday, April 5th. Over 1,200 knitters from around the country knit for 12 hours to raise funds for hunger and food insecurity. The funds we raise are split in between 4 organizations: Meals on Wheels, Feeding America, World Central Kitchen, and No Kid Hungry. You can see from this slide that this year we raised $840,000 plus almost $4,000 in private donations. That means that a week after the knit-a-thon, I wrote checks for $132,710 to each of those 4 organizations, which absolutely blows me away. Freaking phenomenal work, everybody. can't believe that we did that in 12 hours of knitting. Of course, we were fundraising up to that day, but the bulk of the funds that we raised were in the last 48 hours. You all really got the word out in such a beautiful way. I'm going to go back to that slide. As you can see, there were 8,725 unique donations made, and 2,228 of those were under 100. 5,262 were under 50, 3,986 were under 25. Sorry, I think I said that that first one wrong. And 79 were $5. So it was lots of not huge donations that made up that total amount. The numbers I'm super excited about, because it turns out I'm a stats geek, are those numbers over on the left. We had 385 unique teams knitting for Knit for Food, and there were 98 meetups around the country. Last year, I think there were like 40 or 50 meetups, maybe. What changed this year is you all did such a good job at telling your friends and family, telling your guilds, telling your local yarn stores, telling your knitting groups about Knit for Food, and getting the word out, because those local meetups introduced the movement or the action and made it national, nationwide. And here's just a few photos of people around the country knitting together. You all shared some awesome photos with me, and they're all in the Google Drive. So if you were in the knit-a-thon, you got an email with a link to see everybody's photos. And it is absolutely so fun to see them. And I am honored to have shepherded Knit for Food along with the rest of my really awesome Knit for Food team. We are an entirely volunteer-run organization. We work hard, and then we put Knit for Food to bed. We go on to the other actions that we have for the year, and we'll come back to Knit for Food again next year, probably right around the first week of February. We'll launch for signups, and next year's knit-a-thon is April 11th, Saturday, April 11th. It'll be from 10 a.m. Eastern Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We will keep you educated. We'll keep you informed. If you're on my mailing list, that is the best way to hear about when those signups open. If you knitted with us before in the knit-a-thon, you will get an email next February telling you that signups are open. Excited? I am really excited about it. So moving on from Knit for Food, which somehow seems impossible, but y'all did a phenomenal job. I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing, because someone is about to ask that in the comments, because I know that always comes. I am wearing a sweater of mine called Ola Lola that I designed last spring, and I have a long sleeve version that you've probably seen me wearing a lot. This is the short sleeve version. It is finally getting warm around here, and I missed wearing it so much. I wore it at the retreat last weekend, and so many people were like, what is that sweater? So it's fun to kind of pull it out, and we don't always need to wear a brand new piece. And I'm trying to remind myself of that as well, right? Like, we should be wearing the things we have in wardrobe, especially the things that we love. I actually, Ola Lola, when I came back from my travels and my cruise, was like looking a little drapey, and I washed her. Shocking, I know. So I soaked her in some warm water. She actually needed like 3 baths to really, I didn't quite realize how worn she was from last summer. And then I laid her out flat to dry, and she shrunk up just a little bit from the linen and silk kind of restoring themselves to their stitches shapes. And she's fitting, if I stand up, you can kind of see she's fitting beautifully. So if you have a sweater that you feel like has gotten a little bit out of shape, especially, sorry, I'll get back in focus, especially if it is a sweater that's like a summer sweater in cotton or silk or linen, sometimes all they need is a bath. Every once in a while, if you have a sweater that's really stretched out of shape, you can wet it and then dry it until it's almost dry, and then throw it in the dryer for just a few minutes to kind of get it to shrink up just a tiny bit. I don't know if I'd throw it in soaking wet unless you'd already done that in the process, but I have done that with things that have grown, and I want them to get their memory back a little bit. The other thing that I'm wearing around my neck is the Phoenix pendant. And the Phoenix pendant was the goodie for the first kit of 2025's N Club. So the N Club is my larger knitted kit club. It is sold out for 2025. And this is the goodie that everybody got in their kit, along with the yarn and supplies they needed to knit carte blanche, which I'm going to show to you in a second. So carte blanche, I knit with yak baby lace, which is 100% baby yak yarn, absolutely gorgeous yarn. And I took all of these photos that you are seeing because my photographer had a baby and moved to New Hampshire. And so I'm in the middle of finding a new photographer, and I'm having to kind of pull out my photography skills. So I took these photos in like the kind of path going to one of the farm fields next to my road. It's a kind of like it's a tractor path, if you will, lane. And here's carte blanche. She is worked from the top down with kind of a lace that looks like a sea urchin. I realized one of you, Amy, I think, took a photo of the top of her carte blanche next to a sea urchin, and the top looks incredibly sea urchin-like. And then it goes down into the lace, which some of you might recognize this stitch from a beach cover-up that I showed you back in February after our vacation. It has little welts that are in between the lace sections that just kind of beautifully undulate with the lace stitches. I had a really good time shooting, kind of getting to know my camera again. I loved knitting carte blanche. And then there is a close-up of the Phoenix necklace that I am wearing with Lake Hug, and we'll talk a little bit more about Lake Hug in a bit. I have carte blanche here to kind of show you, and an interesting conversation has been happening with a few of you about carte blanche and those welts that I think is intriguing. Here's carte blanche, so you can just kind of see her moving. If I put her on, I could just kind of wrap her around my neck for a little while until I get hot. She's a beauty. This pattern, if you missed out, I see a few people are like, I'm bummed I didn't sign up. All the patterns for the N Club are available within a year of their release. So next April, this pattern will be out. This is a 2-skein version of carte blanche. At one point, Paola from MYAC gave me a single skein in appletini of this yarn. And I think it would be really interesting for me to adjust the shaping of the pattern to do it in like a 1-skein smaller semicircular shawl. So I'm planning on doing that by next April. I have time to do that. So club members will be able to look for that. You guys will get that for free. Don't worry, I'm not going to charge you for that. But I think it'll be kind of like a fun addition to it. When I went to Affinity, a few people who are in the N Club already had their Phoenix necklaces, their pendants finished, and they were wearing them, and it was really fun to see them on everybody. The Phoenix necklace is made by my potter friend Gina and Zena, and she made this pendant. This is a mug that Gina made, so you might be familiar with my favorite mug. I always have like a favorite mug of the year. I got this in December. And the pendant I found, I think last summer in her booth, and I bought it not knowing what I was going to do with it. And then I made a necklace, and when I saw her in December, I was like, can I get enough for everybody in my whole club? And she said yes. So sorry, that was my sock I'm knitting. So members all got a kit, and the kit had this Phoenix pendant in it and some flaxen twine linen yarn, which is really nice and sturdy to work with. And then some 4mm square Miyuki beads and a dental floss threader for stringing on those beads. One of you is going to win this pendant kit. At the end of this live, I will give you a prompt, and then I'll choose a winner the next time that I have a live. So just so you know ahead of time what tonight's giveaway is going to be. I have exactly one left. And the good news is I know a lot of people are wishing they signed up to get one of these. Gina has told me that she can make me another batch of them. And then we came up with some other ideas for motifs that we might try to do for the fall, kind of depending on how that next batch goes. goes. So she's game to keep making them, which I'm very excited about. And we have some good ideas. When they are up, they will be in my Etsy shop. Of course, I will send out a newsletter. Newsletter will come first. And I will tell you that if you're in the N Club, you will get first dibs on those if you have a friend or family member who has seen your necklace and wants it. So I'll definitely make sure that club members get first dibs as a thank you. And I'm pretty sure they'll go quickly, but you know, I appreciate your support. And I love that you love this new jewelry concept idea as much as I love it. I've actually been wearing this one. I wore it all November when I was in Spain, and then I wore it through the winter, and people would notice it and say something, but I was like, I don't think I need to keep it secret. I'll just wear it. I love it. Sorry, I'm thirsty tonight. Okay, next thing. Let's talk about the other thing that is off my needles, which is I see some questions about the N Club. Save those and I'll kind of answer them at the end because I get distracted. I'm like, squirrel. The other things that off my needles is the May Lola's Choice kit. So those of you who missed out on the N Club, if you aren't in Lola's Choice, I think there's like 10 or 15 kits left for May's kit. So if you want to get in on that one, sign on up. I sent out a good little sneak peek yesterday on Instagram and today in my newsletter. There was just my cat tried to wear it for me the other day, which was adorable. And I'm very excited for that kit to release. So that's off my needles. And I actually have another version of that on the needles in a completely different yarn because it's one of those designs that can be knit kind of in any yarn and at any gauge. So that's going to be really fun to see you start to play with that pattern. Other than that design, the other thing that is off my needles and on your needles right now is Lake Hug. And Lake Hug I designed for Affinity Retreat. It is a long sweater scarf. So it is a very long scarf that has sleeves on the end. This photo kind of shows you how there's a sleeve all the way on the end and it gets wrapped around your body. You can wear it with that oval in the front, that swirl in the front or the swirl in the back, like in this photo. And at the end of the knit along, I am going to show you how to wear it because many people have been wondering how to wear it. Some of you at Affinity saw that you actually need a mirror to put it on well because I didn't have a mirror and I had a glass of wine and I didn't do a great job of putting it on. You'll get to see a photo of that in a little bit. Lake Hug was designed based on a design I did called Lake Hug for a retreat that I had in Ithaca in 2021 that ended up not working out when we started to put it into other sizes. So it starts with this 10 wedge swirl, and then that version of Lake Hug went into kind of like a shrug shape with sleeves where the swirls went around the front. And what happened in the larger sizes is there was this like weird torquing in the sleeves because of the swirl of those wedges. And I wanted to like maintain that shape. I actually knit 2 of them and they're one of my favorite designs, but I won't release something that not everybody can wear. I'm not going to release something that only like an up to size 38 bust can wear. I don't feel good about that. So it ended up just being like a sweater for me and the testers who knit it who are still wearing it. That's the back of the second one that I knit in Nua. There's the front of it. I wear these all the time around the house, but I was really happy to use Green Mountain Spinnery Cotton Comfort, which is what I knit the original one in. So that's a photo showing you a few of their colors. And then these are a few of my testers versions of the new Lake Hug. So that's Susie over on the left and in the center wearing her Lake Hug. It looks so cozy. And then over on the right, I think Susie knit hers in Cotton Comfort from Green Mountain Spinnery, which is 100% US woolen cotton yarn. It is sourced in the US, spun in the US, dyed in the US. something we all feel very strongly about. Over on the right is Erin wearing an absolutely stunning version of Lake Hug, I believe in a Malabrigo Rios. So that's got like much more stretch to it. It's got a much more elasticity to it. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I really wanted to show you this version of Lake Hug. And all of these are up on Ravelry if you want to go and look at them and look at people's like yarn details and color details. This one in particular that my friend Kathy knit and her mom is wearing is brilliant because Kathy had a 6 skein DK weight gradient and she worked the center with 8 rounds with like the first 4 colors, and then she worked the body of it in like she had like 3 skeins of a main color that coordinated with the gradients, and then she used the other 2 on the ends of the sleeves. And so if you have an advent kit or like part of an advent kit, this is another awesome idea to do with DK weight minis. If anybody is going to Maryland Sheep and Wool and sees DK weight minis and says to themselves, hey, I want to do something like this and like build a kit for myself with like, I don't know, you probably need at least 5 and then probably 3 skeins of the main color. You could certainly go ahead and do that for a Lake Hug. Or if you want to knit another one, this is an awesome idea. And then the next idea I want to show you, it kind of helps to see what Lake Hug looks like while it's flat, before it's kind of all in its big shape. Because in this photo, you can really see the 10 wedges, especially when I put numbers on them. So as you can see, wedges, I guess it's wedges 2, 3, and 4 become the first wing. And then wedges 5 and 6 are the bottom, and wedges 7, 8, and 9 are the second wing, and then 10 and 11 are the top. It's really reversible, so it could go the other way. And this was the same with that original Lake Hug. And when I did the original Lake Hug, my brilliant friend Melinda was like, what if we did, because she's crazy, what if we did like intarsia? And I did intarsia so that the wings kind of like the 3 and 4 and 8 and 9 like swirled out into a solid color so that the wing would end up being one color, but there would be color movement on the inside. I think it really helps to see the numbers. Oh, I see Melinda here. So she started doing it with the original Lake Hug, and then once we realized it wasn't kind of going to print, as they say, she put it aside. But this weekend on her way to Affinity, she cast on, and you can really see those wedges like 1 through 10 and what they're doing with that swirl. This is part way through, so you'll see that the swirl hasn't kind of gotten up to the top yet. But she is working color work intarsia, where you work a right side row and then you turn your work and you do a German short row and then you work back around and then you keep joining as you go. Oh wait, did those photos not get in there? Oh no. I'm so sorry, Melinda. The second photo didn't get in there. I thought that it would. Melinda had just sent me another photo and I have it on a phone. I can show it to you on a dirty phone screen. Well, look at us. Give me a second. I refuse to accept failure here. Let's see if I can do it. So there is, let's get it like that, and let's go like that. There is Melinda's farther along, and you can see, I think you can see from here that she is into the right wing. So the first wing, so that dark purple swirl has terminated out, and now her wing is all the rose colored wedges, which is really cool. I'm so excited that it worked. Melinda is knitting hers in Jill Draper Makes Stuff Kingston, which is milled at Harrisville and is another totally US yarn from start to finish. Melinda says it was a yarn over short row. Thank you, Melinda. I looked down at the chat for a second. Very cool, right? So these are the things that if I included all of this when I'm doing your like playlist and tutorials. So what we're doing for Lake Hug is we're having a knit along where every 2 weeks I'm releasing a video to go over the next step of Lake Hug. And if I included all of this like chatty detail, you might fall asleep before you ever got to the knitting portion. So it's really fun for lives to get to do these kind of like deep design dives with you, that kind of like, this is how it started, this is where it's going, these are all the things you could do. How freaking fun. I will say that I made a mistake with Lake Hug. And there were 2 points in Lake Hug where my testers made it through, but they had to ask a lot of questions. And I felt like both of those points could be more clear. And then at one point, right before I released the pattern, I was like, oh, on that setup row, if I place a marker and then tell people to put all the stitches to that marker onto their stitch saver, they'll be like good to go. And I didn't send it to any of my tech editors to get checked. I didn't like ask the testers to read that with a fine tooth comb. And even though I knew where the marker went, I put it in the wrong place on the pattern and then sent the pattern out. So a few people who are beyond the wedges ran into a problem. If that's one of you, just go to Ravelry and check the thread and you'll see the correction for that line. I'm going to issue errata on the pattern tomorrow, but there's one more thing that the testers were stumbling over that I wish I could say, just work the stream until it ends, like until it terminates at the 3 edge stitches. But I know you all need a little more detail than that. So I think I came up with a way of explaining it that's like simple, but not too mathy, which the math was confusing to understand. And I noticed that even people who were going farther along were asking questions about it. So I think I came up with a simpler way, and I have my tech editor reading that tomorrow morning to make sure it makes sense. And once she agrees with me that that's a good solution, which I'm hoping she will, Bristol, then I will issue that errata. Because it turns out, even when you've steeped yourself in something for months, sometimes there even is a better way. And Max and I were going to actually film the video for that, for the second tutorial, which comes out next Thursday, last night. And I was like, it could be better. So we have time. So we're going to film it next Monday. So I can just make sure it is like as kind of slick and smooth. And what I don't like is when one of my patterns needs a video for it to make sense. I love that a pattern can stand on its own, and I didn't feel like the way that it was written that it was going to make sense, and so I'm glad. This is why we grow, we learn, we get better. Somebody said this is like something Kat Bordy would say. I'm honored. Kat Bordy is a hero of mine, certainly. So that is the story with Lake Hug. If you haven't joined us and you want to join us, it is never too late. This is one of those knit-alongs where all the resources will always be available in the playlist. What I did for this pattern, which is a little different, is I linked to the playlist of videos where we're going to be adding videos to, so that that playlist will always be there for you with every video that you need as you run into things you have questions about. So that's kind of a new way of doing a knit along, but it's pretty slick. Like, it's, we did it, sorry, lost my words. We did it with Caltopus and KAL, where there was a playlist that I would put all the videos in, but I'm kind of leaning heavier into just go to your playlist and then all of your videos that you need to watch are there. So the next one comes out next Thursday. Please do join us. Max and I are having great fun filming them for you. So that's the story of Lake Hug. We did Lola, we did N Club. Let's talk about what's on my needles. I have something that is in the biggest time out right now because a tester knit it first, and then I knit it a second time during Knit for Food, and I still don't like it. I've knit way more than I have ripped. I've ripped and knit and ripped more than I have in a long time lately, and I don't know if it's just because I'm not satisfied with some other stuff happening in the world. And so my knitting is going to be good, or what is going on. But I have this version of LOLA'S. Some of you might have seen the video I did a few weeks ago on Instagram where I asked you if you liked it with a cap sleeve, or you liked it with a short sleeve right there. And what I don't like about LOLA'S, and you can see it the most in the short sleeve, is there's this little hump right here. And that hump is partially happening because I'm going from the stockinette stitch to the LOLA'S stitch. And I think a lot of why it is happening, because it's still there a little bit in the cap sleeve, is that this sleeve is like 40% of the sleeves together are like 40% of the full body, and they should be more like 28 or 30% of the body. And so it's just kind of bulky, and I didn't hate it. Like, if I was just knitting this for me and it was my sweater and it wasn't a design that I was putting out there, I'd rip back this sleeve and then just turn it into that cap and be done with it. But some people might not like how open that is. This was high enough that you don't see your bra strap underneath, which I really like, but it's still just like a little bit too floppy of a flutter sleeve. And you can almost see it needs to lose like 2 repeats of the LOLA'S stitch, and then it will be like much more fitted and beautiful. And I'm realizing that if I do that, and I make the sleeve the LOLA'S stitch as well, which means I'm going to have to do some major math to how to fit that into the sleeve and have it work with the stitches that are on the holder. It's going to be hard. But that is how I feel like I would like this sleeve so much more, like all in that texture, just kind of hanging down, than having it be with that little bit of stockinette stitch there, because I think that's part of what the transition isn't working well. And it's so interesting that LOLA'S is like a finer gauge version of a sweater of mine called LOLA'S that I don't have a photo of for you right now. And that was done in like an Aran weight. It was like heavy Aran weight. It was done in Manchalopi, and those stitches were so big that this was not apparent. But when I changed the gauge, something about the geometry of the yoke and that bigger sleeve did not work in the way that it worked in the Aran weight. So I'm kind of back to square one. The math will happen, but I have a few other things to focus on right now. Like, I'm on my 3rd pair of toe up large pads because I can't stop knitting them. And one of the things I'm doing right now, you might have heard me say that my photographer moved. I've been interviewing photographers. So yesterday I did a photo shoot with a new photographer who was lovely. I felt like I've known her forever. She's so sweet. We did lots of photos of the new large peds, and we got some really fun video as well. So those will be coming out soon, and I'm going to continue to knit this because next week on Tuesday, I have a photo shoot with a separate photographer who sounds very interesting, and I'm super excited to work with her as well. I think this is going to be hard, and I might be working with them both from now on. It's fun when I find new local people who kind of like share a creative passion and want to kind of grow and learn and try things out. And we're going to shoot more of the large peds because I'll have this one done. And then we're going to shoot the Ceci tee, which I showed you in my last live, which was the design for the cruise that many of the cruisers have been testing. And that is going to come out, I think, like mid-May or so. But I need to get better photos of it because all I had was studio photos from deep in this winter. And so Ceci tee is actually back on my needles because I ripped it because I thought some of the stitches in the yoke were a little funky to me. And so I'm reknitting the yoke just so that stitches are neater. I think I was on too big a circular and in denial and trying to get it done before the cruise or like for the photo shoot. And so it's almost done again. I'm back up to the neckline. And then the next End Club is in design phases. It's almost on my needles. That yarn is here. And then Lola's Choice till July, I have an idea. But what I am running into is a tariff issue, and that at some point I've got to start making decisions and buying yarns. The N Club yarn, I'm going to end up having a tariff on a yarn that I priced before we knew about the tariffs. And so I'll be eating that because clubs, you all pay a set price, right? And that's fine. This is just what business looks like right now, and it's hard. It's really hard to make a plan and have a spreadsheet and know what's happening. And I've been kind of spinning my wheels a little bit because I keep hoping there's going to be a change. Like, what would make me so mad is if I pay a tariff and then the next week it's decided that the tariff should go away and be no more, because there's not going to be any like reparations for people who paid tariffs. So I'm like dragging my feet a little bit on some buying because I'm hoping that there's some changes coming down the line, because that's what we've experienced with our current administration, that like they backpedal, they forward pedal and they backpedal. And so I'm waiting for the backpedal, just trying to be patient. My idea for July is fun, and I think there will be some options to it for July LOLA'S Choice Kit. And I'm going to do some swatching this weekend, like little minis of it, to make sure my construction concept works. And I have a few yarn ideas. What I can't decide is if I should quick go to H&H next week and see what is out there, just for yarns that I don't know about. And that would be like buying a last minute ticket to Chicago, unless anybody local feels like driving to Chicago with me next week, which I really don't feel like doing. I'll just fly if I decide to do it. We'll see. If it's raining, I might be more likely to do it. And if next week looks like sunny and warm and I can be out in the garden, I might be less likely to do it. But it would be cool. There's another yarn I love for fall that I'm not quite sure who wholesales it. I only know how to get it directly from China, and that sounds like a nightmare to me right now. You know what I'm saying? So that is my tariff trouble dilemma. I'm just trying to like do this holding pattern and not have it make me anxious that I'm not making decisions, because I think I have an idea. Anyway, I want to talk about Affinity, because Affinity was a lovely break from reality last weekend. So my dear friend Patty Lyons has a retreat that she, I believe it is the retreat that Amy Herzog used to run, called like Knit, Love, Laugh. It was part of her like custom fit. I forget the name of her retreat. And then Patty got it when Amy started doing the retreat, and she renamed it Affinity. And I think this was her 5th year of Affinity. And Patty's bopped around a little to different locations. And this year was in Cooperstown, New York, which was such a brilliant spot. And I hope she gets to do it there again, because the hotel, it was the Otsego Hotel on Otsego Lake in somebody's going to correct me. Knitwear Love, thank you. And if I got the name of that hotel wrong, somebody write that in there. I have some notes, but I didn't write that down. But Cooperstown is right at the base of Otsego Lake, and it is this big old hotel that is right at the base of the lake. And I was trying to put in words why it was so good. And it's really that it was kind of like an old money hotel. It's been around for a long, long time, and it was like beautiful and well designed and well thought out and old, very clean, which not all kind of old hotels in that style are. Super duper clean, and really lovely. The staff was gracious. The food was amazing. The classroom was one of the most beautiful classrooms I've ever taught in. So I want to share some photos with you. The Atsiaga Resort Hotel. Thank you, Veronique. I needed you. If anybody wants to go on just a weekend away in Cooperstown at some point, I would highly suggest this place. There's so much to do in Cooperstown. So here is Patty and Carson and myself and Zandy and Natalie, and that is the lake behind us. That photo was taken on Saturday afternoon after a very long day of teaching and doing the marketplace, which was very fun. We were all a little punchy at the end of the day. There was a gorgeous porch overlooking this stunning lake. So this is the view from that porch. I also got to have this view from my bedroom and from my classroom. It was kind of one of those pinch me weekends. There were also some bald eagles that lived in the trees right around the resort. So if you see that kind of lump in the middle, that was a bald eagle that was like cawing away, doing his giant call. And Patty texted me at one point in class to be like, when you guys take break, there's a bald eagle right outside your classroom window. And I know that looks a little bit like a lump, but that's as close as I could get to him. It was really cool. This is the front of the Asiaga Resort Hotel. And this is that gorgeous porch, which was just like filthy with knitters knitting whenever the weather allowed. It was absolutely amazing. It was really, there were so many places in the hotel to sit and knit both outside and inside. Really, really spectacular location. Excellent job, Patty, finding this place. Seriously. There's me and Patty out by the lake. That was you and Catherine, that was you and Veronique. Here we are. I think that was on Friday in between teaching classes, quite smiley. One of the things that Patty did that I have never had photos of myself teaching before, and she hired a friend of hers, Francesca Russell, who's a documentary photographer. She like shoots in that documentary style. So she was just like around all weekend taking pictures. So many of the photos I'm showing you, I took, but also many of these, like the ones where I'm in them, she took, and she did such a good job. I also love in this photo that you can see the side panel of Olalola. Like you can really see the construction of Olalola so well in this. So there's another photo of me teaching, and like behind me are windows that look out over the lake. So I know I was one of the gorgeous views that my students had, but also they had that view of the lake, which was stunning. Here's a photo that I took of one of my students. What I did was teach my Stitch Saver class 4 times so that everybody who signed up for the full class package could take that class. And it was so fun because every class was so different. Like my timings were similar, like where we took a break and like the things that we did, but just like the energy and the questions and like what we got done and accomplished was so different 4 times, which I find very interesting when you teach the same thing 4 times in 4 different ways. Here's just another view of everyone. There's a Flola right there. So many uses for Stitch Saver. I taught a new one. I figured out how to do a garter tab with Stitch Saver. That's pretty cool. This is some of us having a drink. I think that was like Friday night. We grabbed a drink before dinner, which maybe was a mistake because then there was the fashion show, but you'll see that in a second. And that is everybody that I have traveled with before, like Karen and Allison, and then Veronique and Susie, who are on the Knit for Food team. I'm so sorry. The knitter in the back, I forget her name. She was sitting with us and absolutely lovely. And then that's Catherine over on the other side, who's been to Knit Ithaca a lot and also traveled with me a fair amount. One of the other things that Patty hooked up with, which was phenomenal, was the Baseball Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown. And the woman who's a curator there, Gabrielle Augustine, did her master's dissertation on sweaters at the Baseball Hall of Fame. And so these are 2 vintage baseball sweaters that she brought over from their collection. I think they have about 16 sweaters in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And she did a whole presentation about them and their history and the Spalding Company, who was responsible for machine knitting them. And then we got to see them up close. We didn't get to touch them, but they did like fold back details for us so we could look at them, which was super interesting. And one thing that I really loved was this collar. And this collar is actually double-sided. I'm going to show you the other side so you can see it. It's almost like a slip stitch rib or like fisherman's rib or half rib on one side. And then the other side has this kind of laddering stitch. And I think it's called a ladder back technique in knitting that knitting machines use. And she actually told us about here, I'll just go to me. She told us about the book that she was able to find a similar stitch in for knitting machines. And I found it and I have it in a cart somewhere because I'm quite intrigued because y'all, what do? I look at that and I think about where the beads could go. Can't you see some kind of all over beaded fabric that looks like kind of basket weave, but it isn't? I see that. So cool. And then this was a detail of the kind of like embroidered American flag patch, which I loved, especially in its kind of like wabi sabi, just ancient vintage, like still with about us, but showing signs of wear and tear. Another thing that was awesome, so freaking awesome. We all talk about hotel carpets. We know that most hotel carpets are just designed to hide the food and wine that you spill. And Atsiaga had just gotten a new carpet, and we were all so into this carpet. It turns out that all the designers, unbeknownst to each other, had been taking pictures of it. I love like rusts and oranges and yellows together. And I'm sure when I go to do colors for the next mystery knit along, this is going to end up being one of the colorways. But I love that kind of like brick, kind of rusty brown brick with the blues and the golds and that like shot of like light yellow in there. It's a really effective hotel rug, don't you think? And then here is me wearing my lake hug at the fashion show, showing it to everybody, doing my little Zoolander walk. There's Susie showing her Ola Lola and her Phoenix pendant and her low lanyard all in one photo. There was a lot of laughing during the racking, Catherine says. There was a lot of laughing during the fashion show. So all the photos I took, people are just laughing. This is my new friend Claire, who has knit for food with us for quite a few years. And she was wearing an abaclet. And then she was also wearing a Las Cruces in the knit for food colors. That was absolutely so beautiful. It was really fun to meet her. And then this is Karen with a love language that she showed during the fashion show. And then this is Catherine's novel long that she's wearing in Carol Feller's Nua that she got when we were in Ireland. And she wore it one day so I could take photos in it on her. And it looks so good. I love this sweater. I wear my novel long all the time. This is me in the fashion show. I had one more thing to show Patty at the very end, and I was very inappropriate. And I took the little mini that I knit for the lake hug and I turned it into a little bikini bra piece. Veronique helped me. And then I am holding my half knit sock down low. I was like, I'm not into knitting songs anymore. And I thought it was really funny. It was a little silly, but what happens at Affinity stays at Affinity, except for what I show you, I guess. So after Affinity was over, those are all my Affinity pictures. The Fenivore Museum of Art is really like just a tiny walk away, like maybe zero point 0.1 miles or 0.2 miles down the main road from the Atsiaga Resort Hotel. And they have a phenomenal collection of Native American pieces and crafts, along with they were having a folk art collection. They have a huge collection and they pull different things out to show them. So I had about an hour from when I left the retreat to when they closed at 4, and I almost didn't go. And then I was like, I need to go and see what they have there. So I went, and it's actually my favorite way to do a museum when I don't have a lot of time and I can just kind of like find the things that inspire me and get into them and then not feel like I need to stay there forever and ever. So I found this beautiful, let me go back to it. Someone's correcting my enunciation. It's Ote Saga. I'm saying it all wrong. I'm so sorry. I try, you guys. I should learn better. This was an absolutely beautiful little beaded purse that I found, and I forgot to give myself notes to tell you where it was made and when it was made and how it was collected. Whenever I take photos at museums, I always take pictures of the cards next to it to remember, but I forgot to like print them out for me right here, and I don't have them. But I really loved that bag. And then I also loved these sneakers, which are entirely beaded and really cool, really cool. And then there was a really old pair of moccasins, and I really enjoyed this beading. And I definitely was like, well, we've never done, I guess we did a little bit of beaded embroidery, but we've never really done like afterthought beading on knit projects before. And maybe that would be fun to do at some point, like to do some kind of project and then afterthought following your knit stitches, sew on beads. So I was starting to taking pictures thinking about like, oh, is that something that would be fun to do together? Or like a little beaded edging, like you can see that's got a sewn on beaded edging. And I know how to do those from when I really did much more beading in my beading days, I will call it. Now I'm in my beaded knitting days. Um, they also had a really fun collection of weather vanes, of like craft weather vanes. And I loved that little sheep down on the right, but I absolutely loved this weather vane, which was like a giant merino ram weather vane. And I took a picture for Max to see um, if he also would like a giant merino weather vane on our house, because our house is the style house that one could have a big ass weather vane, excuse me, a very big weather vane on. I shouldn't curse on YouTube. That's not good. So the Fenimore Art Museum, there's that to do in Cooperstown. There's the Ommegang Brewery. There's the Baseball Hall of Fame. If you go in the summertime, there's Glimmerglass Opera. I had never been there. I checked in with Max. He was like, I think he went years ago, like maybe with his parents when he was a teenager, but he and I have never been together. And I'm totally into going back at some point. I didn't even get to like go to the yarn store, which lots of people said was phenomenal. It's called Sybil's. I was working. You can't do everything, you know? I was having a great time being at the resort and leaning into that. So that's my really fun affinity. Great time. Highly suggest Patty's Retreat if you have an opportunity to go in the future. There were about like 130 people there. It was handled beautifully. There was like a bit of line for like getting food, and because I was a teacher, I got to jump line, but I also find that sometimes I just let the line end and then I go get my food. I like do something else and then I swoop in to get my food. So, yummy. Food was great. Lots of vegetables. Not a bad thing to say about it. I had so much fun with all the teachers and with Patty and with the marketplace. I got to hang out with the Green Mountain Spinnery gals, which I haven't done in a long time. And yeah, super fun. So if you want to take a class with me in the future, this is like a very good segue to things I'm going to be doing in the next few months. So in May, I am hoping to be mostly home. Possible I'll go to Chicago for 36 hours. We will see. At the end of the month, I'm going to go visit my girl and go to a big craft show in Baltimore called Artscape, I hope. Fingers crossed. We'll see if the weather's good. And then in June, I am teaching in Columbus, Ohio at 614 Studio. And that is the first weekend in June. And if you go to the 614 website and click on events, that will take you to the page that will tell you about all of the classes that I'm teaching. When I went and looked at it today, there's one class that isn't listed there. They did put them all on their Instagram. And when this is over, I'll give you a page to my workshop page that is a link to their website. And all you have to do is call them or email them if you're interested. It would be great fun to see some of you who are in the Ohio area there. I know I'm teaching my I-cord class, my Stitch Saver class, my Novus sweater class, and then I think Shetland lace is the last class I'm teaching. So 4 different classes. Should be an absolute blast. I haven't been to Columbus since the wholesale show used to be there, and I'm excited to go back. The other new thing that I'm doing that you'll see on my workshop page is I was invited to teach on a cruise with Marianella from Lyrical Knits and Susan from Wild Onion Productions. And that is next June 14th through 28th. That cruise starts in Reykjavik. So those of you who want to spend some time in Iceland, it goes around the southern shore of Iceland, which the last time I did a cruise around Iceland, we only went around the northern coast of Iceland. And then it goes to, I think, 2 stops in Scotland. And then it goes to Rotterdam and then it goes to Norway, to all ports that I've never been to before except Bergen. I've been to Bergen once for a day and it was very fast. So thrilled to go back there. That is a 2-week cruise. It's on Holland America. They're open for pre-signups. They're not open for official registration yet because Susan's in Morocco. So if you go to my website and click on workshops, you can get information about that cruise, and then you can sign. There's a form to fill out to like pre-register so that when she comes back, she can get back to you with all of the information. And I think that that is going to be very fun. So I'm looking forward to that cruise next year. In terms of like listening, watching, reading, Jose Andres, who is the founder of World Central Kitchen and one of my heroes, has a brand new book that came out last Tuesday. And I chose to download the audio book, one because I had Audible credits by mistake and I needed to get rid of them before I could cancel my account, which I managed to do finally. It's like you have to use up your credits to cancel, and then I kept like missing the day. The struggle is real. And that book is called Change the Recipe. And I'm really glad I got the audiobook because he reads it. And he has a quite strong Spanish accent that I really appreciate. And so when he said journalist and Jan, like, you know, his J's are Y's, and I just felt like I was hanging out with Jose. Absolutely adored it. And I highly suggest listening to him. It's quite inspiring. It really gives the background of his story, of his childhood, and of kind of his starting of restaurants and how he got going in the restaurant industry and how he kind of ended up in the position that he's in, and also his origin story with World Central Kitchen and what that grew out of from some work he did in DC, and his inability to sit on the sidelines as he saw people hungry around the world. So highly suggest it, to either read it or watch it. If you, watch it, listen to it. If you listen to it, there is like a PDF companion that has some recipes that are in the book. And what I really appreciated about all the recipes is they're all very simple. They don't involve ingredients that aren't easy to get inexpensively at your grocery store. So he's really focusing on like quick accessibility eating. So there were like 4 different recipes with corn. I noticed a lot of the recipes had mayonnaise in them, interestingly. And so one of them was to make like a quick and easy Spanish tortilla, which is kind of this omelet that typically has some potato in it. And it's kind of always like a little bit runny and rich and yummy. And he had a version of it to make in the microwave, which was like 1 egg that was beat together with 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, which sounds disgusting, but it wasn't disgusting. I guess if you hate mayonnaise, it would be disgusting. Let's just say that. There's some mayonnaise haters out there. So those are beat together with some salt and pepper. And then you microwave it for 1 minute and then flip it out. And I think I microwaved mine. I tried it this morning and I think I microwaved mine a little bit too long. I think it was a little bit overcooked. And then you flip it over and put some more pepper on it and like a little bit of grated cheese. And it was really good. I ended up putting mine into a gluten-free tortilla with some lettuce and some hot sauce. And it made like a great, like very fast cooked egg to eat before I ran to my physical, because I was worried I'd get hungry if they kept me sitting around at my physical all morning. So it's it was a really good book, and the recipes are great. I'm psyched to try some of the corn ones in there. There was like a miso butter corn that looked really, really good. In terms of reading, I finished reading The Briar Club by Kate Quinn, which is like a historical murder mystery thriller. And it wasn't too much of a whodunit that I couldn't sleep at night. I don't do well when the murder mysteries are too murder mystery-y, but it was kind of it was more like historical fiction with murder mystery on the side. That's how I would describe that. And I am reading Night Road by Kristin Hannah because that came out in 2011 and I realized I had never read it, and I thought I had read all of her books. And I can tell I'm just getting to the part of the book where the teenagers are going to make a bad decision that they're going to be paying for a while. I haven't gotten to that part. So they're just being awesome teenagers right now. And so I might find out tonight when I go to bed and read it. excited to see what happens next with that. So I always love Kristin Hannah's writing. It's kind of like being home. It's very comfortable, which is something I needed in a book right now. And watching wise, I'm watching one thing. I can actually find it on here, I think. If I have it up here, I'm not sure if I still have it up here. I don't have it up here still. I'm watching something on maybe Peacock that has Amanda Seyfried in it. It's a new series, and she's a cop. And I started watching it last night. Long bright road, bright long road. There's a road word in there and maybe a light or a bright word in there. Someone's going to say it in the chat, or I'll find it and link it below. I'm enjoying it so far. It's heavy. It's a little sad and heavy, but I'm enjoying it. I love her acting, and she's a knitter, so we support our knitters, right? And then the other thing I'm going to watch this weekend, because Bella's coming home, is on National Geographic, just released for Earth Day, a 3-part series called The Secrets of the Penguins. And it is about penguins in Antarctica. And they've gotten some kind of never before seen footage and behaviors of penguins in Antarctica. I think they spent 2 or 3 years filming down there in season. And I've seen a bunch of the trailers and they look amazing. And y'all know I basically want to be a penguin when I grow up. So, I'm looking forward to watching that. Bella doesn't know we're watching it yet, but I'm sure she'll love watching penguins with me. And that's a 3-part series, and all parts of them are out. It's called Long Bright River. Thank you, Sherry. I needed your help, that Amanda Seyfried show. Finally, eating. For the first time ever, I decided to make something to bring to the retreat. I think I was worried that there wouldn't be any like gluten-free sweet treats, which of course there were. I should not have been worried. But I made some of my favorite miso brown butter Rice Krispie treats, which I know I talked about in a live like 2 years ago, but I think it's okay to not have something brand new for you every time. You could try the egg with the mayonnaise if you need something new. But these miso brown butter Rice Krispie treats I love Rice Krispie treats, and they're kind of like elevated. They've got this like umami kind of savory thing going on in them that makes them really interesting, gives them a little bit more depth than just like that butter marshmallow sweet thing. And the nuttiness of the butter, especially, I think is like chef's kiss on that. So I'll give you the link to that recipe below in case you have a craving for miso brown butter Rice Krispie treats this weekend. That is everything I have to share with you tonight. I am going to look over at the live chat. I've been trying not to, and see if I see anything. I see Sherry said that the cruise starts on Knit for Public Day. Sherry, that is in 2026, the cruise. I think June 14th is this year's Knit in Public Day. And I need to find where I'm going to go knit in public with everybody, because I will be in town. Quite excited. I'm just scrolling through, but if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below, and then I will go ahead and find them. I'm not seeing. Jana wanted to know if the Phoenix kits will be in my Etsy. Hopefully at some point, Jana. We're working on it. I get that it is something that is desired, and as long as Gina, the potter, is game, I am game as well. Not seeing any questions. I think we got to everything with Lake Hug. If you are knitting Lake Hug with us, remember you can ask questions in the Facebook group. You can ask them in the Ravelry group. I am going to do a giveaway for this Phoenix pendant kit. My next live, I have not set a date for. It's probably going to be in June. I might decide to take a little bit of a break for lives from the summer, because summer is just ephemeral and quick, and I love to be able to garden when I can and go paddleboarding when I can and be on screens a little bit less. I'm sure you all feel the same. So I won't be going live every month through the summer, but as the spirit moves me, I will, and I will let you know in my newsletter when I'm going to go live so you can get it in your calendar. But you can also always watch these later. So don't worry if you make a plan and aren't available to watch it right away. Okay, I shared my Rice Krispie brown butter recipe with you. I think we've done recipes a bunch for comments. What if you tell me what you are planting in your garden this year? What plant are you going to get for Mother's Day or in the next few weeks? I have a rule that I do not buy new plants for my garden. Plants, not pants. My garden doesn't get plants for my garden until I've done all my spring cleanup, and I'm almost-ish done if I don't look in a few directions. So I know kind of what's on my list, but I'd love to hear a plant that's on your list, or like what you're putting in your window box this year or in a pot out front. And when we have our next live, one of you will win a kit to knit a phoenix pendant from my buddy Gina. Thank you so much for watching. Leave those comments below as soon as this live is over. Don't leave them in the live chat. Adore you guys. Thanks for watching. Happy knitting.